A few weeks ago, my wife brought up that she is considering being a surrogate for her sister, for her little sister, and I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a two-part question. First, how can I say no while protecting our marriage? And second, if she ultimately decides to go through with it, how do I keep resentment from taking over?
Yikes. I mean, this is one of those, you don't have a lot of say in what she does with her personal body. And at the same time, y'all should, I mean, I don't know, man. It's, so when you said, I'm not cool with it, what did she say?
She was pretty understanding, but I could just see in her face that there's something inside her that, she's just very close with her family. There's some background to it that, it makes sense why she would consider it. But when it comes to the context of our family and kind of our relationship,
How long have y'all been married?
5 years in December.
Y'all have your own kids?
Yes, we have a 3-year-old boy and a 1-year-old boy.
Ooh, jeez.
And just to give you a little context about everything, so before we got married, I was, very open about wanting to have 3 to 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And since we've had 2, obviously, things have changed. Now that we realize kind of how much of a handful everything is. And she's very adamant, we're done at 2. And I am more than content and grateful and, understanding of her, decision. And I'm, there's no resentment even remotely towards her about that. So when she brought this up to me, there was just a lot of, confusion as to why she would be willing to go through the pregnancy and do all these things for her sister when she's told me on multiple occasions that, she just doesn't want to deal with it again for our family.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound harsh, I'm about to say, but I think you're asking the wrong questions. The right question is, if she comes home and says, I'm pregnant with my sister and another man's baby, what are you going to do? And if that is a violation of this co-created life that y'all both agreed to, and you're going to leave, then you need to put that on the table. If you consider that a violation of fidelity, right? And at the same time, if you're not going to leave, then there's something about making peace with it and saying, okay, I'll be here during this too. But trying to figure out how to not be resentful when this happens and this is something you consider a pretty significant violation of on several fronts. And at the same time, recognizing it's her body. She can kind of do what she wants to. Right, like a lesser, way lesser version of this. Somebody called in the show once and or a woman called and she wanted to get a bunch of tattoos and her husband didn't like it, didn't think it was attractive. And at the end of the day, she can walk into a tattoo parlor and get whatever she wants. And is she willing to put his needs behind hers? You can do that. And that comes with a cost. And is he willing to put that aside and say, ugh, but whatever, she's my wife and I love her. Or I'm out. Like, I wish it wasn't that cut and dry, but it kind of is. Because then it keeps all this middle stuff out of the way. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, this, for multiple reasons, I mean, feel free to be entitled to however you feel. And my guess is that pregnancies were all pregnancies come at a cost to the existing relationship. I always tell people when you get pregnant, when y'all start moving down towards next kid, that marriage is over, and you got to build a second marriage, or a third marriage, or in your case, it would be a fourth marriage, right?
Yeah, and I guess the main, I've never, even in the past couple of weeks since I've been thinking about this, and leaving has never even crossed my mind. It's more of a, I've seen how she's handled the postpartum. She deals with pretty severe anxiety and all these things. And I just have a hard time seeing myself having empathy and not being resentful towards, the inevitable postpartum recovery and all these things when we have our two youngins that need their mom. They need her to be present. They need her, she's putting herself through all this potentially. I mean, she hasn't made a decision yet, but.
Is that a conversation that can be had, which is, have you said those things out loud?
In a not as detailed way. I mean, we've had one or two conversations about it. Mm-hmm. And I think our first one was more of a, she kind of just told me it, and I was on my way out of the house going to work, and I didn't blow up at her by any means, but I was very clear in, that I completely disagreed with just even the idea of it. Mm-hmm. And she kind of, it's not like she got hurt or anything, but I could just see in her face. And then I brought it up a few days later, just to kind of reiterate everything. And she was like, okay, I understand. I get it, but we haven't sat down and actually said, we need to figure out if this is actually something that could become reality. Because I mean, right now all I'm doing is making up, my feelings and how I'm going to respond to everything.
Yeah. You're having a ton of imaginary conversations with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's dividing the relationship in your own house unnecessarily. You're fighting with her on a minute by minute, hour by hour basis. So you've lit a fuse to your existing relationship based on one conversation in the kitchen. That a year out may be based in guilt and in feeling sorry for a sister and in what is my purpose? I mean, in any number of things. And at the same time, you put your foot down and you saw her face. And it's kind of like guys who act all tough and hard. I'll hit that dude. Sometimes when you hit somebody as hard as you can, it doesn't the real world implications of that, what actually happens in real life, watching somebody crumble or their face explode or their teeth fall out or breaking your hand, whatever. It's not the fantasy you had in your head. And you turned in walking out the door and you let her have it, man. And then you saw that you melted your wife, and that didn't feel good either, right?
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel good. And I mean, that was the kind of the main reason I wanted to reach out and just get a second opinion on everything. And
so my challenge to you would be that wouldn't have been the place to blow up on the way out the door.
Yeah.
And maybe the place to start, not maybe, I would suggest, or if I'm in your seat, I would sit down and say, hey, on the way out the door the other day, we had this conversation and I didn't handle it well. I'm sorry. Because it sounds like you're frustrated at yourself too. And by continuing to be mad at her, it justifies your feelings about yourself.
Yeah, I've always kind of had pride in the fact in our relationship. I mean, we've been together for a decade plus. And I've always, I'm very opinionated about things with her, but I always just kind of say my piece. And then if she makes a decision, it's, she's a grown woman. She can kind of do whatever, like you said, she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, but dude, that's not a marriage, man. That's two people living side by side. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
No. I just, I've always felt felt like that's kind of the best approach. I guess it's just more because I feel, I feel better when she kind of approaches things that way.
I know, man, but that's ego, dude. That's like you wanting the world to bend to the way that you want things done, and that's just not why that's just not how people work. Or I'm wondering what would have happened if she had said, hey, I'm thinking about being a surrogate for my sister. She's having problems getting pregnant, and they told her that she can't carry a baby, and I'm thinking about doing this. And on the way out the door, when you feel your temperature rising, you're already late to work, you got to get out, and she drops this doorknob disclosure on you as you're walking out, to turn and say, man, that's really big. I appreciate you sharing that. Can we set up some time to talk through that?
Yeah, that probably would have been a little bit more effective.
Yeah.
And patient.
And if nothing else, it reiterates the version of you that you want to be in the world. Because I don't think you want to be a Knoxville, Tennessean who's like barking at your wife and telling her the way she's going to do things and what's going to happen. You don't want to be that guy, but it comes out that way, right?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, if we're going to be honest, yes.
And then you just have to roll your eyes and be like, man, women are going to do what women do, and she just can do whatever she wants. Like, that's just not a marriage. It's just two people running side by side. Or in my experience, and I don't want to cast this in your life, but in my experience, that's the marriage that somebody at your office is going to think your jokes are freaking hilarious. Or you're going to turn in a presentation and one woman in the back is going to be like, dude, you crushed that presentation. It's going to feel so good. And that's going to be the tiny little crack in the armor. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak that over your life, man, but this is a huge decision, and you're right to have every bit of your being in care come out. You've watched your wife suffer after 2 pregnancies. You see the chaos of your house, and in your deepest, darkest dreams, you would want a 3rd or maybe even a 4th kid, and you'd be willing to endure all that with her for the benefit of this picture you have 18 years from now of 4 knuckleheaded kids sitting around a Thanksgiving table. But when somebody comes in and drops that on you and you realize I'm about to lose control of what little control I have over this chaotic house. You got 2 young kids. You have a wife who's struggling postpartum, like all that stuff. Yeah, man. That's a lot. I've just never seen that go well when declaration is met with declaration.
Yeah, and I guess too, her sister has a baby, so she can get pregnant. They just had a traumatic experience, and she's not willing, which is understandable, to go through that whole, or even risk going through that again.
So what's the chance that your wife wasn't even remotely, if she was just saying out loud? Or let me back up. Is there ever a time she says something declarative when really she's just testing her own waters?
I'm sure there have been, yeah. I mean, it seems like in that specific situation, I was just, like I said, I just kind of was gauging her body language. I think this conversation needs to be revisited in a much more understanding approach, and just kind of see if she's even,
I have never
stories are even true.
I've never seen outside of an abusive situation, which I don't see that at all. I've never seen a marriage, the repair part, which is an essential part because every marriage gets sideways. Every partnership gets sideways, always. I've never seen a repair conversation not aided by one person saying, hey, I want to revisit this, and I absolutely blew it. And I just want to start by saying I'm sorry. And maybe you're not sorry for having your feelings. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you should be sorry for being mad that your wife wants to give somebody else a kid when you want another one. Like, the sorry is I said some things in a way that A, I don't want to be that guy, and B, I hurt you. Even if I was right, I hurt you with it. And I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that I contributed to you feeling less than. Tell me what's going on in your heart and your mind about wanting to get back and have a kid, another kid that's not ours. And I'm gonna be honest with you. And if this is the moment to say, like, I really want a third kid, not right this second, our life is chaos, but I still have that picture in my head, then you got to be honest and put that on the table. And if you really don't, you're totally good with two, and I don't want to do this again, cool, then asking, like, help me square this up. Because together we had a dream, and together we chose a different path, and now I feel like the path is getting changed again, and I want to do that together too. But again, all of this starts with reestablishing safety. That's just part of the repair process. And it's not kumbaya safety, and it's not nonsense woke safety. It is just saying, come what comes, I'll be right here with you. I'm always going to choose relationship over being right. And I didn't handle that one right. And so I've set aside some time for us to get away, reimagine our marriage together. I want to hear more about your heart about this. I know your sister's hurting. I know you're hurting for your sister. I want to hear you out. And sorry I snapped at you on the way out the door. And let's just agree that big grenades like that, let's don't drop those when I'm walking out the door too. Like, both of y'all can learn from this. And in the future, if you have a big bomb like that you want to drop, let's set up some time. Hey, I have a big conversation I want to have. Be great. And let's start from there. I think you're a good man, dude. And I'll reiterate it, man. Any man at any time who catches himself being somebody he doesn't want to be, and I have high respect for that man. Especially when he says, all right, I'm going to do the next right hard thing, even if that means taking a knee in front of his wife and saying, I'm sorry. I think I was right, but I'm sorry. And I want to be with you as we decide what happens next. And dude, if she wants to go through with this all the way, y'all both call me back. We can have that out on the air. That'd be fun. But it's an honor to talk to you, brother. You're not crazy, but you still got to go back and repair it and do the next right thing.